In this video, I'll demonstrate the latest update of our add-on Game Rig Tools Unreal module. Now you can rig any bipedal character with the UE5 Manny skeleton. Now before I go into the demonstration, here's a quick overview of Game Rig Tools. Game Rig Tools is an add-on based on CG Dive workflows, which helps you when working with Blender and game engines. The core toolset of Game Rig Tools helps you quickly convert any Blender rig to a game-ready armature. And the Unreal module is a set of tools specifically aimed at working with Blender and Unreal Engine. Currently, it only has one feature, and that is helping you rig any humanoid character with a Unreal-compatible armature. In the first release, we supported the Unreal 4 mannequin skeleton, and now we also support the UE5 Manny and Quinn skeletons. To get the add-on, please go to this Gumroad page, which I will share with you. As you can see, the add-on has a lot of positive ratings. The pricing is a little bit unconventional. Basically, you can get the add-on for free if you cannot afford it, or maybe to test it as a demo. But if you can afford it, we do ask you to pay around 15 bucks or whatever you can afford. Once you purchase the add-on, go to the content. And now, again, the core tools of Game Rig Tools are here in the core module. But in this video, we're talking about the Unreal module. So you'll find it in here. Click on the download button and that will download a zip file that you can install. It's important to note that the Unreal module and the core module do not depend on each other. So they're basically separate add-ons. You can just install the Unreal module and it will work just fine. After you download the add-on, you can go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, click on Install, find the zip file you just downloaded. Select it and install add-on. And also activate the add-on and you're ready to go. Then you'll have the Game Rig Tools tab in the end panel. And here's the Unreal module. If you also have the core module, I'm going to install it really quickly and activate it. So if you have both, you'll also have these additional GRT armature tools and action bakery. And the Unreal module may be here on the top or on the bottom, it doesn't matter. So in this video, we'll be focusing on the Unreal module. I'm going to quickly rig this character here that I got from Sketchfab. Here's the link to it, and I'm also going to share it in the video description. And now to start working with the Unreal module, first you need to select a preset. So you can select the Unreal 5 Manny or the Unreal 4 Mannequin. I covered the Unreal 4 Mannequin in the previous video, and the workflow hasn't changed. So here I'll be focusing on the Unreal 5 preset. And in fact, the workflow is exactly the same for the Unreal 5 preset as well. So if you remember how to work with the previous version, you'll be able to work with the new one in the same way. However, there are a couple of new tools that you may want to learn about. But first, I want to initiate the mannequin. And that creates this widget collection, which I'm going to collapse, and these three armatures. The tweak armature is a temporary tool which we use to easily align the bone to our own character. The deform armature is an armature which we use to easily weight paint the character. And the root armature is the actual Unreal skeleton that we want to use before we export. And I'm going to be demonstrating the full workflow so that you know how to use all of these armatures. So first I want to focus on the tweak armature, which will be active as soon as you initiate the mannequin. And first you may want to grab this root control and just scale the armature to about the size of your character. Now the size and the proportions of this female character is very similar to the actual Unreal mannequin, but we still need to do some adjustments. And later in the video, I'm going to show you less ideal examples of cartoony and unusual characters. But from here on, I just need to align these bones to my mesh. So currently, all of these armatures are kind of visually distracting. So what I could do is, here from the Unreal module interface, I can click this dot next to the tweak armature, and that will isolate my tweak armature. So then I can manually hide and unhide these armatures, and I also have the option to select the armature if I'm in object mode. And I just click on the Unreal Armature. That will select the Unreal Armature. Okay, but now I'll focus on the tweak armature and go to pose mode and keep aligning the bones. It is a good idea to check the side view. So I may want to move this whole thing a little bit back. And then I may want to align the spine and head and neck. You have full freedom to move, rotate, and even scale these controls. I can even scale the controls non-uniformly, which I generally try to avoid, but if I wanted to, I can. The actual bones will always stay uniformly scaled. I'm not trying to be too precise here. We also have these tweak bones, tweak joints, which we can use to fine-tune the positioning of the bones later on. But for now, I'm going to focus on these large widgets and just roughly match the proportions of the character. So here I'm scaling the clavicle, which also scales the arm. Then I can grab the arm control, and let's look from the top view as well. So I have to move this clavicle forward a little bit. Then I can grab the arm and scale it. And I can even move it. Disconnecting these bones is not a problem. So here I want to take this and rotate it. This control only rotates on the local Z-axis. So I can adjust the elbow position. So something like this. And from here I can focus on the joint tweaks and create the exact bone alignment that I want. So for example, I can select both of these tweak bones and kind of scale them and align them with the foot. This one I'll align with the ankle. The knee is a little bit higher. And this bone needs to be a little bit higher maybe. The pivot point of the head needs to be around here. Okay, next we come to the fingers, which are kind of time consuming, but I'll try to show you a quick and painless workflow for them. So I'll enable the finger controls. So again, we have large scale finger controls. I'll just try to roughly match the bones to the mesh. Again, I can scale, move, and rotate freely. If it gets hard to see, I can go to Armature tab, viewport display, and switch to stick. But yeah, I'm not trying to be very precise here, because once I have this roughly aligned, I'm going to hide the main finger controls and enable the finger tweaks. And here, I'm going to switch to volume snapping, and you can either enable snapping and then just grab any control and move it, and it will snap in the volume of the fingers. Or you can disable it and just select the control, and when you hold control, it will snap. So you can move freely, and then when you hold control, it will snap. And that is my preferred method. And that is looking okay. But it looks like I didn't place the toe bones correctly. So let's enable the joint tweaks again and move them back into place. Okay, something like this. Okay, once I'm happy with the placement of these bones, I can go to object mode and click apply rig. So that was the first step of the process. The second one is to actually create weights so that we bind this character to a skeleton. And for that, we use the deform rig. So I'm going to isolate the deform rig, select my character, and it looks like the eyes are a separate object. So I'm going to select all of these objects and I can join them, but for now I won't. And I'm going to shift select the deform armature and go Control P with automatic weights. And we got the bone heat weighting area, which I kind of expected with this model. And I'm going to make a separate video specifically about this area, but probably the easiest way to fix this is to use a paid add-on that I really like. Voxel heat diffuse skinning. And I'll just set the influence bones to 4 and skin with voxel heat. And it is done. And now my character will be moving with the armature. Bone heat weighting area is really annoying. I promise to cover more solutions to it in a video very, very soon. But now my character has basic weights. If it was a real project, I would most likely go to weight paint mode and fix some of the weights. For now, I'll assume that it's good enough and I'll go back to game rig tools. So now we need to switch the deform armature, which is just there because it has nicely laid out bones and it allows us to skin the character easier. But now we need to switch the armature, which actually controls the character, to the Unreal armature. And in the previous version of the add-on, that needed to be done manually, but now we have a handy operator which will do it automatically and in one click. I just need to click on Switch Parent Armature here. And now, if I go to my deform armature and try to move it, you'll see that it doesn't do anything. That is because if I unhide the Unreal armature and select it and go to pose mode, now the Unreal armature will actually control this character. So basically this button unparents the mesh from the deform armature and then parents it to the Unreal armature. If I press it again, yeah, I'll go to object mode. If I press it again, I'll be back to controlling the character with the deform armature in case I want to do some additional weight painting or something like that. And then again, switch, go to my Unreal armature, and it will be controlling the character. So before exporting to Unreal, you need to make sure that the character is parented and it is controlled by the Unreal armature. Okay, so that's the basic workflow. In the next example, I'm going to show you how to use this copy the additional bones to root feature. This will be useful if you want to attach additional bones to the base Unreal armature, but I'm going to talk about this in the next example. So now let's try to export this to Unreal and see what happens. I'm going to start the Unreal launcher and launch the latest version of Unreal. I'm going to create a new games preset, and I want a third-person preset because it contains the new mannequins and some blueprints that we can use. I'm going to name my project and create it. Okay, here's the third-person example. If I play the game, I'll be playing as Quinn, and you know, we have these cool IK legs. And I want to make sure that the character that I'm going to import into Unreal 5 will be able to use the same system. So now, if you're going to use a manual FBX to export a character, you are all set. Basically, the armature, the root armature, has this scale of 0.01, which is for compatibility purposes. But personally, I like to use the Send to Unreal add-on. And when working with this add-on, you actually need to apply the scale of the armature. So I'm going to isolate the armature and then shift select all of these meshes as well and press Ctrl A and apply all transforms. Okay. And from there, I can use Send to Unreal. So I, again, have to install the add-on. And I have a whole video on how to download and install the add-on. So I'll just install it. And actually, from the options, I like to disable automatically create predefined collections, because this automatically creates this export collection in every file. So here I'm going to delete it. And now if I want the export collection, I can just create it here manually, or I can go to pipeline, utilities, create predefined collections. And next I need to select the meshes and the armature and move them into the export collection. Now, before we can actually export, there are a couple of things that we need to do. First of all, again, we need to make sure that the scale is applied here. And also we have to tweak a couple of settings in the export settings. So go to export settings dialog, go to import and enable launch FBX import UI. So this way, when we export to Unreal, it will show us some import options that we need to tweak. And also, again, under the settings. Okay, took me a while to find it, but it is under export extensions. You want to enable combine child meshes. Okay, because currently we have 3 meshes parented to this armature. And if we don't enable this setting, they will be exported as separate skeletal meshes, but we want them as a single one. So now we are almost ready to send to Unreal. We just need to go to Unreal and go to edit, project settings, I think, and look for remote. And make sure that enable remote execution is on. Okay, now I can go back to Blender and go to pipeline, export, send to Unreal. You may have to allow access. And then if we go back to Unreal, you'll see that the FBX import options are displayed. And now what we need to change here is the skeleton. We want to reuse the Unreal skeleton rather than creating a new one. That is why I enabled these import options, because otherwise send to Unreal will just import everything and it will create a completely new separate skeleton and it won't be compatible with the mannequin. But this way we make it compatible with the mannequin. So I'll just import. And my imported stuff is here under untitled assets. So now technically, to replace the mannequin with my own character, the main thing that I need to do is go to third person blueprints, open this blueprint. I'm going to dock it here next to the map. Go to viewport, select the mesh, and instead of the Quinn sample, I'm going to select this new character that I imported. And now if I compile and play the game, it will be working. And I have the IK stuff. Right, so it's looking pretty good. So the results are actually not perfect, but because this character is very close to the original mannequin character, the problems are not too obvious. So to demonstrate the problems and the solutions better, I'm going to move to another more unusual example. But before that, let me quickly back up this character, just in case we need it later. So here in characters, I'm going to create a new folder, call it biker, and just move my assets over there. Okay, here is the more complex example. So to save some time, I just went ahead and aligned the main bones. The process is exactly the same, just grab the controls and move them around, and then grab the tweaks and so on. So you can see that the fingers are aligned like this, just aligning the bones to the mesh that I see. And here the legs, something that I found is that it is a good practice to keep the legs relatively straight, even though they're kind of bent here for this character. It's better to keep them kind of straight like this. But other than that, I can apply the rig and keep working. So now I want to focus on the deform armature. And here, before I move on to the problems that we can see in Unreal, let me quickly introduce this new feature that we added, which is copying additional bones to the root armature. So this is useful if you have additional features that you want to add bones for in the rig. So for example, this character has a tail. If I go to edit mode and create a new bone, and I'm going to call it tail, and just align it with the tail of this character. And maybe subdivide it. And then I'm going to parent it to the pelvis of the character with keep offset. Now I can go ahead and parent the mesh to the armature with automatic weights. Hopefully it will work this time. And it did. So now these tail bones are part of the rig, and they deform the actual tail. So now we want these same bones in our root armature. So all I need to do is click the copy additional bones to root, and that gives me this dialog. This checkbox is just in case you're going back and forth between the deform rig and the root, but for now we won't need it. I'll just click OK. And now here is my root armature, and if I isolate it, you'll notice that it has these additional bones transferred to the root armature. And also, if I select the pelvis in this armature and move it around, you'll see that the parenting was also preserved. Okay, so that was an easy way to move any bones that we add to the deform armature to the root armature. So adding new bones to the armature is okay, but you have to be careful not to change the existing hierarchy of the bones. So you can parent new bones to any of the existing bones, but you cannot insert new bones between the existing bones. You cannot unparent any of the existing bones. So yeah, for example, adding a tail like this and just parenting it to the pelvis is fine. If I want to add a jawbone here, that's fine. Ear bones, that would be fine. Just parent them to the head, eye bones, and so on. Okay, but now I'm ready to switch the parent armature. So now my ferret is controlled by this Unreal armature, and I'm ready to export it. And so everything is already set up for export. I just need to make sure that scale is applied. And then I'm going to check the export settings. And yes, I have launch FBX import UI. And combine child meshes is off, but in this case I only have one mesh, so it doesn't matter, and I can send to Unreal. Now in Unreal, the import options will be displayed again. I just need to choose the existing skeleton and import. All right, so now if I go to the blueprints and edit the mesh to be the newly imported ferret character and compile and play, you'll see that it's kind of working. The IK is also sort of working, but the running animation seems a little bit weird. And if I jump, then things get really, really weird. So how do we fix this, right? For Unreal 4, it was enough to just go into this character. I'll dock it here and show the retarget options and set these retargeting settings in a certain way, which we'll also do. But Unreal 5 is more complex now. It uses the new control rig for the characters, and so there are more things that we need to do. So first, to understand the problem, I'm going to switch to a running animation, and then go to character, bones, all hierarchy. Now, notice these bones that are all the way here. These are the IK bones, and because they're meant for a character with much longer legs, they are all the way here, and that is causing the legs to overextend when jumping or running. So here is a solution that I came up with, and I have to be honest and let you know that I'm not sure if it's perfect. I'm not an expert on the new control rig yet, but here's what I did. Basically, I made the IK bones kind of procedurally follow the foot. In that way, they can be applied to any character. I have to go to characters, mannequins, rigs, and open the mannequin basic foot IK asset. Okay, here it is, and this blueprint here basically controls the IK behavior. And it uses the IK foot bones, which we saw here, these disconnected bones here, to control the foot IK behavior. So here is the solution that I came up with. Again, I'm not absolutely sure if it's correct, and if you're more experienced with control rig, please let me know what you think and if there is a better solution. But here I can go to the rig, and at the bottom I'm going to create two new nulls. Okay, so I'll just select this one and Control C and Control V and copy it. So the first one I'm going to call foot IK L null, and the other one I'll call foot IK R null. Now I'm going to grab this one and choose set null, and same with the other one. And then in the search field, I'm going to search for foot, and I'm going to grab the foot L and get the bone, and then foot R and get the bone again. And here, I'm going to expand transform and connect translation to translation. So I'm connecting the foot L to the foot L null, right? And I'm also going to do the same for the right foot, just connect translation to translation. Okay, next I'm going to connect the execute to this set transform. And this one I'm going to connect to the next one. So I'm setting the left one, then the right one, and then I'm going to plug this into the existing blueprint. So what this does is I created these nulls, and then I told them with these nodes here to always be attached to the foot of this character. And now I have to go into this blueprint, and I have to change things in 6 of these nodes. And I'm going to zoom out and show you exactly which nodes those are. I'm selecting them right now. So it's these 6 nodes here. Okay. So now I'm going to zoom in, and what I need to do is from bone, I'm going to switch to null, and then I'm going to select the this one used to be the IK foot left bone. So I'm going to use the left null that I created instead. And same here. I'm going to switch to null and choose the right null. Okay, here as well, I have the left bone. So I'll switch to null and choose my left null. Switch to null and choose the right null. And the exact same here. Okay, now I'll compile this and play. And you'll see that it works, but things do seem kind of off. So now I want to go back to the skeleton of this character, and I want to set up the retargeting options. If you hover over these retargeting options, again, you have to click this cogwheel and enable show retargeting options. And now if I hold Control and Alt over here, it will give me some information about how things need to be set up. So basically, these IK bones and the root need to be set to animation, that is correct. The pelvis needs to be set to animation scaled, and all other bones should be set to skeleton. So I'm going to right click on these selected bones and choose recursively set as skeleton. I'm going to save my files and try to play again. So something is wrong, so most likely I didn't set up something in here correctly. Okay, so it seems like rather than connecting just the translation, I needed to connect all the transforms. So just connect transform to transform. And then my character has proper running animation. Jumping is also looking okay. And the IK also works exactly as it should work for a character like this with shorter legs. So yeah, that's the solution that I came up with. I hope it's useful. And again, if you're an expert in control rig and the IK rigs, please let me know if I'm doing something wrong and what your solution would be. Okay, let me back up the ferret character and we'll move on to another example. Okay, so here is my other unusual example. And so again, I just went ahead and aligned the twig bones to the character. That shouldn't be a problem by now, I think. But here's what is special about this character. It has 4 fingers rather than 5. So what I did is I just made sure that one of the fingers, in this case the pinky, is outside of the mesh, far enough so that it won't be affected by the automatic weighting. And now if I switch to my Unreal Armature, you'll see that it is already weighted. Okay. And these pinky finger bones are just outside of the character, and that won't be a problem because we are not going to be using it for this particular character. So again, everything is ready for export. I'll just send to Unreal. And here choose the mannequin skeleton, import, go to my character blueprint, change the mesh to the frog one, and try to play the game. And it is working. Everything is as you would expect. The arms are clipping a little bit into the body. That is because of the body shape. And there are things that you can do in Unreal to offset them just for this character. But I'm not going to be going into this in this case. But here you can see that the fingers are working correctly when I jump. Another topic that may be interesting is converting your character rig to some sort of control rig such as Rigify or AutoRig Pro so that you can create additional animations. For now we are keeping our add-on simple so we don't have such a functionality, but there are a couple of separate add-ons that can do that for you. For the Unreal 4 mannequin, you can try the one-click rig add-on. It's really a one-click solution, but at least for now it is limited to working with the UE4 hierarchy. Another solution is Epic's own UE to Rigify add-on. It supports UE4 by default, and there are UE5 presets that you can download. I'll share all the links. UE to Rigify is not exactly intuitive at first, but once you get how it works, it can be quite powerful. The UE5 add-on is another option. It's a paid add-on, and I did buy it, but I haven't had the time to learn it yet. But I think that it can produce a control rig for you. And Quick Rig is another add-on which creates AutoRig Pro compatible rigs based on a deformed armature. So that is yet another add-on that could do the job. For now, I leave you with these general suggestions. In the near future, I'll try to cover the full workflow with some of these tools. I hope you find GameRig Tools Unreal module useful. Please like, subscribe, and consider supporting us by buying the add-on or by becoming a patron. Cheers!